Somehow today the will to wake escapes me. My bones were heavy, and it seems lately I'm all water but no flow. There's no spirit, just a stone you couldn't throw. Oh, oh. A walk among the silent trees of memory. My roots and hanging limbs obscure the clearing, but this ray of sun might know how to make the water simmer and then go. My stiff breath and tremble, always, always the days resemble, twist and backwards through many nights led to this morning, pale in the wake of fitful dreaming. I paddle in the mud with dreams of sailing. I hear the hollow words and blessings.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're tuning in from, and thank you for being here. My name is Gabriel Trent, and I'm 24 years old. I'm a major in chemical engineering, and I'm a full-time student. Do not currently work, and this is my second year as a college student.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Michael Cummings. I'm 29. I'm a pre-nursing student. I am going to school part-time at the moment, and I work full-time, and I've been a student for 2.5 years now.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Yassine Abdel Fattah. I'm 18 years old, and I'm a business major. I'm a full-time student, and I work part-time, and I've been a student for 2 semesters now.
Good morning, everybody. My name is John Brannon. I'm a 21-year-old music major from Riverside City College. I also work part-time teaching students, and I've been a student for 4 years now.
So first, we would like to thank you all for joining us today. We greatly appreciate your time, and we appreciate this wonderful opportunity to speak freely and thankful about our individual and shared experiences as young Black male students in the community college system. With that, I would like to open the floor and ask you fellas, the main reason why we're here, what has your community college experience been like?
I'll go ahead and get started with that one. So my college experience so far has been relatively good. It started off a little bit rocky because when I first showed up to college, I kind of had no idea and no plan what I wanted to do or knew how to do what I wanted to do. I knew coming into college that I wanted to be a music major, and I knew that eventually later in life I would want to go to school to be a pilot. But my plan in the beginning had no idea how to get from point A to point B. It took being reached out to by a promotion. It took being reached out to by the Umoja program only a year after I started college that I was finally able to find some guidance and find some partnership that I was able to learn what I needed to do in order to succeed in college, what my path should have been, and who I should talk to and how I should talk to them. So it took, and if it wasn't for the Umoja program, I don't think I'd be on the path that I am now. However, I can say that now I'm on a good path, I always like to make an example of, I have a younger brother who's 3 years younger than me, and this is his first year in college. And he always talks about how he had me as a guide, and he's so happy that he had me to kind of help him learn what his plan and what his path should be coming into college. As a junior in high school, he was already asking me what he should do, how he should do that, what programs he should get involved in, what teachers he should take, and what classes he needed to take to get in and be able to get out within an efficient time period. Me personally, I had nobody, so it took me a little bit longer than it'll take him, but I feel like I'm on the right path now, more so than I was 4 years ago.
Okay, and similar to John's experience, I'm a first generation student, and parents, even grandparents, didn't go to college. So upon entering campus for my first semester, I didn't know where to go, and I had no guidance. And I started off as a music major because I played piano, and then I went to business, and I was like, I wanted to do nutrition. And eventually I got integrated into the UGMA program, where they told me about engineering, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I want to know more about it. And my previous experience was I was a combat engineer in the US Army. And so I had already had engineering experience, and I knew a little bit about like how structural systems worked. I was like, okay, let me do some engineering. So that's been my particular experience. And I'd also like to mention that there wasn't really anybody that had any STEM experience in the UGMA program, which is no fault of their own, but there's a severe underrepresentation of Black people that do STEM in general.
Yeah, most definitely agree with you. So my experience compared to your guys is quite different. I'm a freshman. I just started college, unlike everybody else in this panel. So I came into college through virtual learning. Coming from high school to college and virtual learning in a virtual learning environment, it's not the best transition. It wasn't the easiest transition, but I had to make it through. Thankfully, I had the help of Umoja, the Umoja counselors and the Umoja teachers, and just the Umoja team in general. They helped me get to where I wanted to be. They helped me put me on the right track, but it was still a rush. It was still a rough start. So Michael, you're the eldest out of this panel. I'm pretty sure you have the most experience. So do you want to go ahead and chime in on that?
Yeah, of course. So yes, I am a bit older than everyone, so I have been doing this a little bit longer. When I first initially went to community college back in 2009, 2010, it did not go well. I did not have guidance. I had no inspiration. I didn't have the faculty or staff or the knowledge on how to succeed in community college. So I was completely lost, didn't know what I was doing, and ultimately that caused me to fail out initially the first time around. But the second time around, which has been in the past 2.5 years, have been really, really great because I've met amazing people through the Moja program. I've met counselors and teachers who are willing to help and guide me down the right path. One of my biggest challenges, though, is that a lot of them don't know too much about HBCUs, which is a school that I want to go to. HBCU is a historically Black college or university. And even though our school system and counselors and teachers are very knowledgeable in the UC system and that kind of stuff, they don't know too much about how to align me with what the requirements are to transfer to a HBCU. So I think that's been one of my biggest challenges, and I think it needs to be more implemented, and more teachers and counselors need to have knowledge on that. With that, what has your guys' biggest challenge been so far?
So my biggest challenge is starting online has been readjusting my schedule to fit for the class itself. So I'll give an example. I took Spanish 1 last semester, and the time was like 5:30 to 9 p.m. And I had things to do, so many things to do. I had to babysit my niece. I had to find time to help my grandparents with yard work. I had to run to the store to find groceries. And what I noticed was I was getting particularly stressed out as a student, having to readjust my schedule every couple of days. There was no sleep schedule. There was always trying to fit things in last moment, a lot of procrastinating, trying to, figure out, hey, what am I doing here? You get stressed out as a student. So that's been my biggest challenge. My second biggest challenge has been navigating through all the endless portals that we have when we're doing all the online stuff. So one class will say, especially if you're taking multiple classes, one class will say, okay, we want you to log into Canvas. Canvas is, if you're not familiar with Canvas, it's an online portal where you do your assignments, your modules, or your labs. But every single one of those takes you to a different place. And eventually that ends up taking up a good portion of your study time. And as we know nowadays with COVID, study time is very important. Time in general is very important. And so when you're taking up 30 to 45 minutes just navigating through portals, that's time that could be allotted for sitting down and typing out assignments.
Yeah, most definitely. So my virtual learning or my challenges in general, they're more specified towards virtual learning because I started college in a virtual learning environment. So virtual learning in my house is not the easiest thing. I have a household with 4 other siblings, so we're 5 in total on Zoom all the time. We have classes every day, Monday through Friday. And it's hard. We're 4 siblings split between, or we're 5 siblings split between 2 rooms. It's rowdy. We don't really have that time, that ability to focus and really tune in onto our work and be in the best environment to succeed. We're 5 people split between 2 desks. It's hard. It's hard out here. It's rowdy and it's loud and there's a lot of distractions everywhere, and it's just not the best environment for learning. And also I think virtual learning, like, it didn't equip me with the best tools and the best guidance that I feel I would have gotten if we were on campus and it would be in person. But I'm pushing through. I'm doing what I have to do. I'm just getting there. Pushing through all the obstacles, persevering, and I'm getting to where I want to be at. Even though it's going to be harder than I expected, I have to do what I have to do at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, my biggest challenge, I think the principal trumpeter of the LA Philharmonic, his name is Tom Hooten. He has a saying that says half of the gig is the hang. And one of my biggest challenges, especially more now that we're on an online semester, is I'm not able to corroborate and collaborate with my peers and my students as much as I would like to in order to be able to learn. I personally am a very hands-on learner, so I get a lot of education out of out of being able to do the thing with other people and have a lot of like minds together at the same spot and working on the same thing. So I learn and I get to watch everybody else's triumphs and learn from their research and learn from my own research and trials and tribulations. As Yassine was saying earlier, I also live in a very small apartment with my family, and my mother is a teacher, a high school teacher. So Monday through Friday, she's already running a Zoom class herself, and we all only have one router. So that, and I also have a little brother, as I was saying earlier, who's also doing Zoom classes. So for me, a lot of the issues that I've encountered have been from simply not having the Wi-Fi, the bandwidth to be able to attend all my classes and be able to be as engaged because I can't hear the class because I don't have the signal to be able to. And I think for me personally, the last and probably most important challenge that I've encountered is, and this is more so again being in the Zoom semester, is the lack of a what I call a activity space. The space that I have to do work. As a music teacher, I don't have, and living in a small apartment, I don't have access to a practice room where I can go practice my instrument, as late as I need to, as loud as I need to, or as long as I need to without disturbing my neighbors and having, law enforcement called to tell me to be quiet, which has happened before. So not having a productivity space like, a practice room or having a classroom for me that some of my, I guess you could say my more Caucasian counterparts and my peers might have the space to utilize, I know as we were all saying, a lot of us, we're all seeing that we're having to share our productivity space with a bunch of other people. Whereas I know a lot more affluent students may have entire offices that they can go to in their house. They may have desks in their house that they can go to. A lot of students are finding that they're having to do their homework at the kitchen table and go to classes with their little brothers and sisters and moms and dads walking by. And we're all getting a very in detailed look at how everybody's house may work. And I know there are some teachers who require students to have their cameras on no matter what. So even if you've got, family drama going on behind you, you've got somebody coming in and out of the shower, you always have to keep your camera on, and it can be a little bit embarrassing. And that embarrassment can be a little bit of distraction, which is going to hinder the way you're learning from your teachers as is. So that being said, I want to ask you guys, how does the community college educational system attend to the equity and well-being of our Black male students?
So a great example of that would be, of course, the Umoja and BSU programs that some campuses have, where it gives a safe space for Black students like us and other students to have a safe space to speak openly and freely about their experiences, a place to let their hair down, to not feel alone, because we are outnumbered at most schools. So walking through a campus and feeling alone and not having that person be like, okay, cool, you get it, we understand each other, we have the same experiences and things like that can be very distracting. It could be hurtful almost, to where you just feel alone and you don't want to be there. So offering places like that can give that person that drive and that motivation to have a safe space to feel okay with going to school and being around like-minded individuals. Yeah.
Yeah, I most definitely agree with you, Michael. The Umoja program is an essential program for African American students in community colleges. It provides us with that support system that we need. But at the same time, it's not enough. If it weren't for programs like the Umoja program, students wouldn't necessarily receive much support. The Umoja program was the only program or the only thing that was sent to me and informed to me from Riverside Community College. That's the only I haven't received any other emails reaching out and any types of support or any types of guidance directed towards me. It was only just the Umoja program, and I thank the Umoja program for stepping up and doing that and helping us, young African American males and women, just succeed by guiding us. But it's not enough. There's a lot of other people or a lot of other students that are going through much worse times especially during these COVID times, and they need more resources than there is available to them. They need more support than there is available to them. They need more guidance than what is available to them. So I think there needs to be a push for all of that, um, for our students on campus, because it's just not enough at the end of the day. Oh, Gabriel, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I find a community college educational system to be a very unique experience for me, because I didn't just have Umoja that reached out to me my first semester, but I also had the opportunity to have Veteran Resource Center. And so for me, my personal experience is I suffered from a traumatic brain injury, and that really changed my personality and how I function. Also was diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety. And so, you know, these complications, they tend to compile on each other and give you a really hard life to navigate through, especially when it comes to school and the social environment. It's changed during COVID because now social distancing actually helped me. But in the sense of going to school and being there physically, these programs really helped me out. And I'm also like a highly sensitive person, which is like, you know, you go through a lot of experiences, you become a little bit more sensitive to your surroundings, what's going on around you, loud noises, crazy environments. So I think the online experience has been better for me, particularly in that sense, even though it's kind of a backdrop as far as flexibility goes. For some odd reason, because it's online, you would expect it to be a little bit more flexible. But the interaction really helped me out. I think that, you know, we should push for more financial aid, book vouchers, scholarships, merit grants, definitely merit grants. There's a lot of Black students out there working hard. I know there's a huge conversation right now about affirmative action. Look, if you work hard and you're really about your work, offer more grants. Offer more grants to students of color, because my personal experience talking to my classmates is not anecdotal evidence. This is real life experience from Black students who suffer from literally having to work extra hours just trying to make ends meet. Put out more merit grants, put out more things where students can work hard and they are rewarded for what they're doing. And that'll definitely help out with in terms of equity in the educational system. And it can't hurt.
Oh, apologies, Gabe.
No worries, no worries.
So, you know, most definitely, after hearing what you have to say, what is inequity in your opinion? And how does it apply to our current education system?
Okay, so inequity in our current system, I believe, starts before college. It starts with the textbooks that students have. It starts with not explaining the experience of not just Black students, but various cultures around the world. Chicano students, if you're from India, from China, from Japan, doesn't matter where you're from, we can't just have a very linear way of learning about European culture and then also a falsification of reality about what really happened throughout history and how we are in this position today of inequality. So I think the biggest thing starts with the textbooks, is starting to rewrite history the way that it was actually played out and showing people that, you know what, there can be more Black people in STEM because Black people contributed towards the elevation of society, of current civilization. And once it starts with feeling first, once we first understand that we know that we can do it, then there will be more representation in these fields that were initially thought that Black people couldn't do. As you know, as slaves, they didn't allow us to use, gain knowledge by reading books. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Frederick Douglass, but he was one of the pave makers in that sense. And he went and he searched for knowledge and he got it. And he was able to express that. So I think it starts with textbooks. I think, secondly, it starts with having more professionals in the field. And I'm not sure what goes on behind closed doors as far as the hiring process goes, but the percentage is 2.2 percent Black professionals in STEM. My personal experience is I have nobody to go to. And with COVID, I really don't have anybody to go to because there's no study groups. Yeah, you can log in. Yeah, you can get into these tutoring sessions, but these tutoring sessions, they're only limited to the amount of time that they're allotted to give you. And then what does it mean to you when you're working through, I don't know, thermodynamics, and you're doing it online and you're looking at it and you're like, okay, but I still don't get it. You need somebody to sit there with you and help you work out through these complex questions. So I think that's the hugest in terms of inequity.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. There's a little bit of a lot to chew on right there, but I agree with it all.
Sorry about that.
For me, inequity as a definition is simply put, not having the same opportunity to succeed as everybody around you. And for example, I know we've been talking about the way the Umoja program has affected, it seems like, each and every one of our lives so far, is not having these programs or even having any sort of assistance or a reaching hand that's available, that it's able to reach out and go, hey, do you need help? Even if you don't need the help necessarily, but having that option, having that opportunity to accept the help. There are a lot of students who, so to speak, fall through the cracks because they don't get a reaching hand. They don't know what the first step is even to take. Everybody talks about what the end goal is, but very rarely do we actually talk about what the steps to get there, what the right direction to get there is. So we have a lot of students who fall through the cracks because we don't have the same opportunities to succeed. And the students who find the programs like Umoja, those programs like that. Like, I know at our Riverside City College, we have programs like Ujima, La Casa. We have programs like the Veterans Resource Center that are at most schools. Those programs are there to assist the students who don't necessarily have the knowledge or background to know what that first step is inherently. Not everybody can go home and ask their parents, hey, how do I get through college? Hey, how do I sign up for this college? How do I sign up for this program, this scholarship, this grant, this merit grant, as Mr. Trent was saying? And so programs like these progressive programs are there to assist us. And without them, I feel like a lot more students would fall through the cracks than we give credit for.
Well, after what you guys had to say, what practices, policies would you want to see implemented to address the inequities?
Oh, definitely. So I think one of the first things that I would see is, I know I talk about, as I'm getting ready for the transfer process personally, I'm getting ready to transfer to a four-year university. And one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of four-year universities have things like mentorship programs where they're able to pair. There's the student teacher ratio at most schools and most four-year universities is about one teacher to anywhere from 23 to 35 students on average. These mentorship programs, they allow the student body, they allow the upper division students like the seniors, the juniors, or even some of the grad students to mentor some of the incoming freshmen or transfer students who may not be as acclimated to the school process as the people who have been there for a couple of years. And so those programs and like the mentorship programs that these schools offer, where you can have a partner and you can have somebody who can walk through with you from a student perspective, and they're able to tell you from their personal experience how to get through college and what will help you and what will make you successful, as well as flexibility. I know a lot of teachers nowadays have seemingly cracked down on what would normally be seen as regular protocol or procedure. However, a lot of teachers are also not being as flexible as they used to be. As I was saying earlier, a lot of teachers are saying things like, you're at home, so you're able to do the work yourself. You're at home, so that must be you must have all this time on your hands, so you have all the time in the world to do class. And as we were saying earlier, a lot of teachers are disregarding the fact that students have to make a living. Some students may have to work in order to be able to even afford to go to the class that they're going to. A lot of teachers are neglecting the fact that students are taking a lot more classes than just the one class. And it's all a little bit about perspective. And so I've seen some teachers who have said things like, you can't miss anything, and they'll put a deadline in the middle of the day. in a way that most students or most people who have a regular job, whether it's a blue collar job, a white collar job, working at McDonald's or working in an office, if you have a deadline that's at noon or 1 o'clock, most people aren't going to be able to submit the deadline or take the test that's only open for a 2-hour window in the middle of the workday at that time, you know. So the flexibility is something that I would definitely love to see acclimated a lot more and implemented in the school workplace, especially now more so that we have to work on what is going on at home, and we don't have, as I was saying earlier, that productivity space to be able to go to classroom and focus just on your education and just on what's the topic at hand and what you should be learning. You have a lot more distractions, you have a lot more responsibilities when you're doing school work at home. You know, you have to look at it from the perspective of prior to coronavirus, prior to going on to a virtual Zoom learning environment, most of the students who were taking classes in person. And the very few amount who were taking online classes were only doing so because they had other responsibilities. They had other jobs that wouldn't allow them to go to school. They had kids they had to be taken care of. They had other responsibilities, families. They may be a caregiver, a caretaker for elders in their family or their household, or that may be their job, you know. And the online scenario for them fit and it worked with the schedule. Well, now we're seeing students and teachers who haven't been acclimated to this, who are trying to be even more rigid when there's still people who had these unique scenarios that were preventing them from going to school properly. I know that can be a bit to chew on, but now that we've kind of gone over what, you know, the inequities are and what the inequalities in the school system are, I kind of want to take a second and ask you guys, before you got here, what did you expect out of the community college system? What were you trying to get out of it? Or what did you expect out of it? What did you expect to happen?
So what I expected when I started school in the community college, I expected a place filled with diversity and, you know, a welcoming spirit, and a place where I can start new and flip the script, because I really wasn't the best high school student. But now that I'm in community college, I want to, you know, better myself and take this opportunity to start from scratch and succeed and do what I have to do. But, you know, it's hard doing that without getting over your bad habits, without getting over the habits that held you from not succeeding previously, you know. And in order to get over those bad habits, I believe that you need some type of mentorship, some type of guidance that'll help you get over it. Speaking on what Gabe said earlier, you know, representation. There's a lack of representation in our perspective fields in STEM and humanities and business. You know, there's a lack of representation and a lack of mentors that you can rely on to help you get to where you need to. Um, yeah, so getting over those bad habits is the first step. You know, I'm not a perfect person. I'm not the perfect student. I'm still trying to get over these bad habits. You know, I'm doing much better though. I'm succeeding much more than I was in high school, but I'm still trying to get over these bad habits. You know, like procrastination and just lack of discipline. Yeah, most definitely. Um, but thankfully, I'm in a better position right now. I'm doing much better. I'm on the track to transfer to the university I want to transfer to, and I hope this continues throughout the rest of my college experience. But I really expected a place where I can get over bad habits and just start anew, and it hasn't been the easiest. Maybe it's because it's online, or maybe it's because, you know, I don't really have that type of shoulder to lean on, that type of mentorship to depend on to help me get over these cracks and bumps in the road of success. But yeah, that's what I expected from community college and what I got from community college. So, Michael, would you want to add on to that?
So of course, so when I first went to community college, I didn't really know what to expect. Just like the rest of you, I'm a first generation, and I'm not here with my family, so I'm here on my own. So when I went, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was up, what was down, where to go. I just enrolled, signed up for some classes, and was doing what everybody was expecting me to do. It was supposed to be something that where I found myself, to where I was able to grow. I was expecting to figure things out right away, but it didn't go that way. I didn't have a sense of direction. I didn't have help. I didn't have guidance. I didn't know what was going on. But once I eventually found that help and that guidance, it tremendously helped me. It helped my grades. It helped my well-being. It helped me feel comfortable in my skin. I felt comfortable around the peers that I had. I'm exceeding well in school. So it just really, really helped having guidance and help and programs that can to do better in school, because not everybody has this opportunity or the understanding of how college works and how to use it to your benefit. Because a lot of people don't know. Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you guys still hear me just fine?
You're good
Yeah, I
now.
think you just need to slow down a bit, and I think you'll be good.
Okay. But yeah. I just feel like having those opportunities and the guidance and those programs that eventually helped me to get to a better point will help those in the future. Because a lot of people go into community college not really knowing what to do, just or saying, hey, continue, go to school. That's what you're supposed to do. Just go, figure it out. So, yeah, I think that was my expectation of community college when I first entered.
Definitely. For me, my when I came into college, I didn't really know what to expect, especially coming to a community college. Like I said, I was the first one. My family, my parents, they went to a big four-year university. However, I was the first student to go to community college. And so I didn't really know what to expect when it came to the community college system, because all throughout high school and all throughout, the AVID programs I was in, we were always told that college was going to be this super rigid, super strict, and super just cutthroat, facility of education. Whereas when I was kind of coming into college, I kind of had that mindset of just, I'm going to go and I'm just going to hate my life for 4 years, but I have to do it to get the degree to be able to succeed in the world. And in the beginning, once I finally showed up, it wasn't necessarily like that. I know I was able to find a lot of community and a lot of hope in a lot of my professors, and there was a lot of, and this is all granted after I was able to find the Ujima program, which helped me get into these classes and find the track I was supposed to be on. But once I found these professors, once I found kind of my community and found my core group of people that could help me succeed, then it became a lot different from what I was expecting coming into college. Like I said, I was expecting this huge cutthroat, this very strict, this very teachers don't care, teachers just throwing work at you with no regard to anything. And I showed up and I learned that it wasn't necessarily that. There were a lot of really phenomenal teachers that I've had, and I've seen some even in this call today, and I have to thank all of you guys for that. And there also have been some teachers who have been the cutthroat, the cutthroat setting that I was expected of, that I was told would be at college. And it's been less so of them and more so of the good teachers. So I've been very blessed to have a lot of very good teachers coming in, and I'm glad it broke the expectation that I had. It lived to being a lot better than what I was expecting of coming into college.
For me, I took my first semester when I was 17, and I was taking 6 classes. And so it's a very hazy memory for me what expectations I had of the community college system. But I do remember being extremely overwhelmed, and I had no help from parents telling me, hey, this is how you do it. I just went online right after high school, my first semester. I just went online and I clicked, and I eventually figured out how to sign up. And I had a huge student fee that I didn't even know how to pay. I just asked for money and I started mowing lawns and stuff like that. And so I just came in with absolutely no expectations and became extremely overwhelmed. I was taking Black history. I was taking a music class. I was taking a circuitry class. Well, I was taking 2 music classes. I was taking Music Theory 1, which eventually I found out had a 70% drop rate at that community college. And I was also taking a beginning piano class and 2 other classes that I can't even remember because it's been 7 years now. But I had absolutely no expectations and was overwhelmed. I can't tell you what I did not expect. I did not expect the teachers to just be passing through lectures without giving a little bit more of thought-provoking examples, which tends to be, very frustrating when you're just jumping into a classroom, a new environment from high school. High school, and this is different for everybody's experience, I assume, because different high schools have different curriculum and different expectations. And so if you leave high school with certain expectations, you'll come to college with certain expectations. And so I think that was the biggest drop for me, was seeing extreme dichotomy between high school and college. And so I want to move on to the next question, which I'll ask. I see we've all had challenges with the community college system, but let's take it back to our experience with the K through 12 educational system, maybe that mirrored our current experiences. What is your experience, Yasin?
That's a great question, actually. So, being the eldest boy in an immigrant family with a single mother that, is fresh off the boat, doesn't know the culture or the language or the understanding of America, just came to the US with the mindset that her kids are going to become successful with the American system and be able to live the life that she wants us to live, the life of a successful person. My mother always wanted the best for me. She always sacrificed any of her needs for the betterment of my siblings and I, and the success of my siblings and I. And I can't thank her enough for all she's done for me. But it was to the point where, although she tried to do the best for me, it may have not been the best choice for me. So I'll elaborate on that right now. So, I was in a private school all of my life, from K through, or all of my life until 5th grade. So that's K through 4th grade. I was sheltered and isolated in a Islamic, or if you, sorry, I didn't mention this early, but I am Muslim. So I was sheltered in an Islamic private school. And it was a harsh transition when I had to transition to public school. Anyways, my mother found out of this prestigious, quote unquote prestigious STEM school that she wanted me to go to, because she really wanted me to be, the stereotypical doctor, and she wanted me to, like I said earlier, be successful. So she found this STEM school. I applied, I got in. She was extremely happy. She let all my family know. They were extremely happy because they were under the perception that, it's a STEM school, a science, technology, engineering, mathematics school. It must be great. It must offer me valuable things that any other school wouldn't necessarily offer me, any other public school wouldn't offer me. So, although she had good intentions in mind, it wasn't the best experience in a long shot for me. I was in this I was surrounded by affluent Caucasian people. The amount of African American students in the whole school can be counted on two hands, and the school ranged from 5th grade all the way to 8th grade. And the high school was 10th or 9th. They also had a high school too, a high school program attached to it. And, the number of African American students you can count is you can count them on two hands. So there was an extreme lack of representation, an extreme lack of belonging. So, I was surrounded by affluent white people. I felt like I didn't belong, and the students there made sure I felt like I didn't belong, every day I'd come on campus, I'd be called slurs, you know, I'd be let know that I'm the worst of both worlds. I'm black and I'm Muslim. It was ruthless. And I couldn't like I was outnumbered severely, you know, and I had to just take that in. And it really took me off track for my education. To be honest with you, I didn't do good at all from in the long shot in that school, because every day I'd go to campus, I wouldn't even worry about school, worry about my education. I just think about how to prepare myself for the next onslaught of, attacks, emotional attacks that I'd be receiving. Um, pulling up to school every day in a old 2001 Toyota Corolla while everybody else is pulling up in Mercedes and Benzes and Teslas, it really made me feel completely out of place. And we also had to have computers there. So they would also, if you had a loaner, so that's another thing. If you had a loaner at the school, like a loaner computer that you loaned from the school, that instantly reflected your poorness. Everybody else had MacBooks, the highest end Microsoft computers, and my mom was doing the best she could for me. I can't even, like, there's nothing else she could do more for me. And I, like, looking back on it, I wasn't the best child at home too, because I was bringing all of that negative energy I had from the school back home. I was going through an extreme identity crisis. I was asking myself, why was I born black? I know it's a tough question to ask yourself. I know it's like something I look back on right now and I'm like disgusted by that question that I was really asking myself. But I just felt like it was unfair. I felt like I didn't deserve this type of abuse and onslaught. And I stayed at that school from 5th grade up until 10th grade because my mom was still under the false perception that it was the best choice for me. It was the best school for me. It was a school I was going to succeed in. And the only way I was able to get out was I just took my mom to a room. I broke down in front of her. I never really explained to her what I really went through because I didn't want her to feel bad and regret her decisions and, regret her sacrifices that she's put towards my education. But, I broke down in front of her and I just let her know, like, all the trouble I'm going through at that school and just I'm not succeeding. So that's when I transferred to a public school that I dearly love. I'm forever gonna represent that school, John W. North High School, and it really changed my perspective. I was surrounded by people, people that looked like me, people that came from the same background as me. I was surrounded by African Americans. I was surrounded by Latinos and Latinas. I was surrounded by minorities alike, and it just made me feel like a sense of belonging. I ended up doing well at that school. It helped me flip the new chapter. I after my or my I was there my junior, my senior year. My junior year, I had my first African American teacher, Miss Hollowell. She's super. Or now Dr. Hollowell. She was a super inspirational being to me. She really, although she was a hard teacher, it was a hard class. She would always want me to succeed. She'd always be there for me and provide me with any type of support I needed. She'd always like stay an extra day or no, not an extra day, but stay that extra hour to help me on anything I needed help with. And she really just stuck her neck out for me, and I really appreciate her for that. I ended up becoming the president of the Student and Staff Recognition Council on campus, because I just really felt I belonged there. So I put myself in that position and I really grinded, and I just felt a sense of belonging, a sense of passion. And, now I'm in a community college. I was also blessed to have a wonderful African-American teacher, my second African-American teacher, Miss Star Taylor. She's a super dope professor. She really helped me. She really helped me throughout the school year. I see that she's in the class. She's in the meeting right now. Thank you again, Miss Star Taylor. I really appreciate what you've done to me this past semester, especially since we've been online. You really have been helping me out quite a ton and been pushing me. And the emoji program really it really helped me get to that next level. So thank you so much, Ms. Taylor. So yeah, that was my experience. Michael, do you have a experience you want to share?
Yeah, sure, of course. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm not from here. I originally grew up in New Orleans, so the environment is really, really different. How I grew up, it was in a predominantly Black neighborhood. pretty sure all the people were Black. My school, all Black students, as well as the teachers, were all Black. Although they were all Black and taught us many great things about our culture, which I'm very grateful for. They taught us things about Frederick Douglass, about Matthew A. Henson, the first Black guy that ever climbed the mountains, Madam C.J. Walker, all these people, they embedded that into us. But the passion and the drive to go further in education was not there. They were not the students weren't motivated to do great. They weren't influenced by their surroundings to think, oh, I can do something greater than just living here. So it's kind of hard to go to school and be in that type of environment and succeed and want to do something more. So when I got the opportunity, well, not necessarily opportunity, after Katrina, my family and I, we moved here to California. We relocated. Our grandmother was already here, so we just stayed with her and we got registered in school right away. That experience was definitely different. All these different cultures we got exposed to, Latino people, Asian people, white people, everybody all together mixing as one. And it was exciting for me, scary, because it's not something that I was used to. But one thing that I did notice is that in California, they value education very highly. So all these students and everybody were far advanced than we were. So I had a very, very hard time catching up with the other students as well as my family members. Another thing that made it hard too is that even though that there were Black students there, we weren't embraced by the Black students. And that's fine. Just because we're, skin folk doesn't mean we're kinfolk, and that's okay. But it was something that was very hard for us to adjust to. They weren't able to adjust. They weren't for it. I stayed, they went home. So I lived out my experience in high school basically by myself, trying to find a way to catch up to everybody else. Then there was a teacher I had in my junior year. Her name was Donna Hughes, and she swooped me up right away. She was like, you don't know what you want to do? Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to sign you up for ROP classes. You're going to do this. She was there to try and help me to catch up, to do better, to want more. And that really, really influenced me. And I think if it wasn't for her, I don't think I would have finished high school. I don't think I would have even attempted to go to community college. So I'm very, very grateful for her giving me that opportunity. So I think like having representation, like we said, is really, really great. And I also think they need to be more implemented of like African-American studies. Like people need to be taught more about our cultures, because some people may not grow up around us and have the opportunity to meet people of color. So having classes or studies or something to where they can get an idea of what's going on and what has happened instead of, in high school, where they kind of like just pass over it, would be really, really great. So that experience really, really shaped how I viewed education and what I want out of education and how I want to go further. So I just think that we need more things like that available.
So guys, what is missing in the curriculum and content delivery today?
I got that one. So I feel like there's quite a bit missing. One of the main things that we're missing is a lot of representation of faculty who look like us, so to speak. It's real easy to put into perspective. When you're a Black male student and you're going through college and you're going through even your K through 12 education, and you never really see anybody who looks like you, who has the same skin tone as you, who comes from the same cultural background as you, in positions of success and positions of higher power, and you only see them in more customer service positions, not as, when you don't see as many affluent folks who look like you, it changes the narrative a little bit, because it almost feels like it's not possible for you. It almost feels like it's just not allowed for you to be up in positions of success and power. Whereas we have students like our white peers who see people who look like them, so to speak, in positions like principal, in positions like all your teachers, you ever had. I know for me personally, my first Black African-American teacher was when I got to college, and he's also in this call, Professor Miguel Reed. My entire life, it took me like almost 18, 19 years before I finally was able to experience a Black teacher. And it's that, of course, that wasn't my parents, you know. But for me personally, I feel like that's missing a lot, is the representation of people who look like you, who can also teach you things like your culture, you know. Cultural history is just as important, you know. It's not just about who was Christopher Columbus and what he did. It's, you know, there's a saying that history is written by the victor. And I feel like it's just as important to know about both sides of the story before you're able to make a decision, before you're able to make an informed decision, you know. So you have to be able to hear all sides of the perspective, all sides of what history is supposed to tell you, you know. So it's far too easy to fall through the cracks when you don't see anybody who's not fallen through the cracks before you. You know, it's almost like you're on a revolving line that just drops off at the end and you just kind of see it coming. Whereas if you see a revolving line that goes all the way through to a path of success, it's easy to be prepared for that. It's easy to know who you can go and ask for advice, who you can go and ask questions, ask for help, ask what you're supposed to do. So I feel like that's the biggest thing that's missing is the cultural representation of people who are able to relate to you and who you can relate, who can give you advice firsthand, what you should expect and what you should be looking forward to.
Right. And I really want to reemphasize what John just said as far as content goes. If you only look a few decades ago, the narrative of Black people, or the narrative about Black people, were that they were in the jungles of Africa, so to speak, not doing anything or not contributing to society. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that history was only a few decades ago. Now it's not here today. No, the lingering effects are still here today. There's still a good swath of the population that still believe that Blacks were just Africans in the jungle, when we actually were extreme contributors to society. So I think that it really just, it really disrespects a good portion of the population. And then as far as, curriculum and delivery, like the curriculum has to be something that is concrete and it does justice to everybody. And it doesn't just tailor towards one specific race, so to speak. And passion, I think the biggest thing is just finding passion. Like if your professor cares about you, they will go above and beyond. I think he just mentioned Professor Reed that's tuning into this. And that's someone that I believe really has a passion for students and really actually helped me out when I was really struggling through a particular English class. So I think, having professors that care about your personal experience, is able to relate to your personal experience, still able to maintain professionalism and has passion for what they do and can express that passion where you're able to receive it, is, it's unsurmountable. Like you, as a student that does leaps and bounds above just looking at textbook evidence and showing, okay, this is the answer to the question and then this is how you get there. There really needs to be passion in it.
Agreed. I definitely agree with you on that. Passion is one thing that is needed with some teachers. I understand that it is a job, a profession like anything else, and some people have bad days, some people have good days, but it's very hard sometimes, especially now with virtual learning, when a teacher is speaking through a screen about a subject that they not necessarily are passionate about. It's hard for me to absorb that because now you sound bored, now I'm bored. So I think that's a huge thing. Another thing that I think needs to be implemented is more hands-on learning, or telling us how these things that we're learning can be implemented into our lifestyle. Because plenty of us take prerequisite courses to transfer and to get to the next step. But some of these courses, I don't understand how it applies to what I'm going to be doing. I think that would help us retain more information if we were taught, like, hey, okay, we're doing X, Y, and Z. This is how you would use it in life. This is how you use it to get you to do better, to succeed, to like help you. Because sometimes it goes in one ear and goes out the other. Or we study and we learn the stuff and it goes in our short-term memory, then it's just gone. So all that time and learning and studying is just, it feels a waste. So I think definitely having more hands-on experience with the subjects and teaching us life skills that can help us do well in the workforce, do well in our life, helping others, and communicating with each other well and everything.
I'd have to say I truly agree with what everybody had to say previous to me. We do need more passion in the workforce. We do need more representation, and we do need more thought-provoking coursework. I think that's a big thing. We really need thought-provoking coursework in our current curriculum. Like Michael said, everything, or not everything, but usually it just goes in one ear and comes out the other. We really don't gain much from what we're learning, because it feels as if it's just you're listening to somebody talk. You don't have the ability to interact, and you don't have the ability to really give your opinion and your 2 cents in. And that, I think that's what makes a course more valuable, when you have that ability. And you have the ability to add on to what the curriculum has to offer. I think curriculum should be less more just homework and tests, but more so, more active learning in the class. Because if you really think about it, how from our previous subjects and our previous coursework, how much of it can we really just, get a test right now? And how much of us can really just pass it with flying colors, Because I know I can't. From my previous high school classes, if I just had a test right in front of me in regards to my previous class or coursework, I could not remember what I learned. It's just we don't have the ability to actively learn while we're learning. It should be less homework and just tests and quizzes, but more, thought-provoking questions and thought-provoking workloads. If you guys get what I'm saying. I feel like if that were to be the case, it would inspire even the students to have more passion in the work that they're doing. They'd have more want to do the work that they're doing. More discussions, or more just involvement. Not everybody learns the same. That's another thing. Not everybody is just a listener that could just listen and just absorb all the information. Like, I'm personally a hands-on and a visual learner. I absorb more material when I have that ability to be hands-on and visually see what I'm working or what I'm doing. Um, and it just differs for every student. And I just feel like if we were able to have that opportunity to have more active learning and more thought-provoking questions and thought-provoking coursework, it would benefit not only the students but the teachers too, because they would leave more of an impact on the students. So, speaking of technology and what we need to improve, or speaking of education, what we need to improve, how can technology be most efficiently used to enhance learning today or in the future?
Well, I believe that we can minimize the monotony of navigating through online portals. That is, in my opinion, one of the biggest, I'll blatantly say it, wastes of time that we have to deal with. I believe that we can find a better system. Not saying the current system is completely flawed, because there's a lot of useful reasons why we have multiple portals. But I think if we consolidated it into one place where students are just able to say, okay, I'm going to this one website, here's all the assignments, modules, and labs still on the same website, and not having 100 tabs up and then clicking through different tabs. Because even if, let's say you just have that certain section of tabs, you also have all these other tabs that you got to Google search, and then it just becomes a frustrating mess. And as human beings, nobody likes a frustrating mess. We work better under an organized, structured environment. So I think the biggest thing is just really navigating and not wasting time. When we want to log in, we want to get straight to the assignment. We want to work on it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Gabriel. I know it seems to me like almost every every teacher I've had has done. And I know for my school specifically, we've been using the Canvas app. We've been using the Canvas website. And even still, even though it's on the same website, every teacher has used it significantly differently than the previous teacher before them. And even then, it's become a really confusing, as you were saying, mess, and it feels rather unorganized. You have some teachers who will throw things into a category that isn't supposed to be there. Like they'll throw a test under the assignments tab, or they'll throw modules and the lesson that you're supposed to be learning for the day into the announcements. It becomes a really big mess. I think technology as a whole, it can just be utilized a lot more efficiently. And one of the very few beautiful things that have come from being online and being distant learn is you can learn from anywhere. You don't have to necessarily be at home. However, we won't necessarily have the ability, because of the reason that we're on a Zoom semester, you don't necessarily have the ability to go to a Starbucks anymore and do the homework that you need to there, or study there. The Pew, there's an organization, the Pew Research Center, which is a nonpartisan research foundation, found that 96% of the American population has a cell phone or computer of some sort in their pockets. And I think it was something like 85% of them were smartphones that have internet access to them. We're able to utilize these devices and use this technology to learn from anywhere. And I feel like as much as a lot of teachers are trying to, there's definitely still a lot of work to be done to be able to utilize it efficiently and utilize it for the best method of learning. Not every single person learns well from just sitting in front of a screen and just watching and listening. And there's a difference between the active listening and passive listening, is something that I heard here talked about a lot. And most of being on Zoom semester becomes passive listening. You're kind of sitting there, whether you have your camera on or not, you kind of sit there and you're just letting the class go by, and you're not really paying as much attention as you would be able to, if there was a more active participation from the class. There are a lot of teachers who will just lecture and then end the class. They won't take questions, they won't elaborate on things, and not only does it leave students confused with a lot more questions, it also leaves a lot of room for different interpretation, which will eventually affect your grades. So using the technology more efficiently, and I don't necessarily have all the answers to that. I don't have an answer that would be the end all be all of how technology can be used the most efficiently, and that's the beauty of technology, is it's ever changing and ever adapting. So I feel like we just need to find what the most efficient route is to have a uniform approach to how we're taking online school, even if it's not just, across the country, it's not like across every teacher in America, even if it's just as simple as down to your specific department. If you're an English teacher, having all the English teachers use the same format, or if you're a sociology professor, have all the social science professors use the same format or the same technology. That would help consolidate a lot of the confusion that goes between colleges and between teachers, between the teacher-student relationship and the teacher-student understanding of how work and knowledge will be passed on through a Zoom portal.
Alrighty, so I would like to ask Michael, what have you learned from distance education learning?
I learned that personally, it is not for everybody. Yes, it's a great tool to have and to implement into everyday life. But for me personally, when I first initially went to school at Riverside Community College, I went to on campus and then I tried online. Neither options work. Now, fast forward to now, 2020 and 2021, we're forced to do distance learning, and it is not for me. I find myself easily distracted. I'm at home, I can find chores to do. I have things I could be doing. I can water my plants. It's very, very easy to get distracted, and kind of like what John talked about earlier, where like you have a household where you're living with other people. So I have roommates and we're all in school and we all work and everybody's working and going to school from home. So you have people walking by. I can talk to my friend, to my roommates and things like that, that will distract me from learning. So I think it's very, very hard for some students with the distant learning. And it's very helpful to be in class sometimes, to go to a student and be like, hey, do you get what's going on? And they may say yeah, they may say no, but having that student there and be like, because not everyone feels comfortable asking the teacher or want to interrupt the lecture. So just a little, hey, do you understand what's going on? Giving me, a little heads up, hey, this is how you would do it. I also feel like being in like class really does help learn more, because I initially took chemistry when all this started. And I got to experience a little bit life of what it was to learn about the subject as they lectured and then go to the lab and apply that to the lab hands on. But now it's all just virtual. So I'm on a computer and I'm clicking, I'm not really understanding. I'm like, this program is funky. It just doesn't flow as well for everybody. I know that's for some people it has been beneficial, but it's not for everybody. So I think it should be an option that's offered, but not something that's required for everybody. I think they should implement it into everything for future classes and stuff, but it's not ideally for me personally.
So it looks like Yassine may have some technical issues. John, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, sure. So what personally I've learned from distance learning is, and I guess to put it bluntly, there's always a better way. As I was saying earlier, there's always a more efficient way to learn. We're seeing some students prosper. Some students are prospering on the virtual semester, and they're able to sit there and take the time and learn how they choose to learn. But then we're also seeing other students drop out because, as Michael was saying, there's it's everybody learns a little bit differently. Some people learn visually, some people are hands-on, some people love to listen to it, some people have to watch it, or some people have to do it. And even amongst those like 4 or 5 different methods of learning, there's little subcategories that people are able to learn from, and variations and mixes of them all. Some people like to listen and watch, or some people like to watch or listen and do hands-on at the same time. So there's always a more efficient way to do it. And granted, there's it is a difficult dilemma to be able to do this on a Zoom semester. It's not always going to be possible to do a hands-on approach when your entire class is a total of, I don't know, say 400 miles apart from each other, some even further. So seeing everybody learns a little bit differently is definitely something that we've learned is that I know I have a teacher who told us that in his specific department, we're seeing his enrollment in their classes is down. I think he said 35% from what it normally is, and down 35% among a college that has 26,000 students, give or take a couple thousand. That's a lot. That's a significant number right there. So I know we're learning a lot about how students learn, and we're learning a lot about how people learn, and how every student is a little bit different, and every student will need a little bit of specific tailoring. And if you remember earlier, I had mentioned the partnership programs, the mentorship programs that a lot of four-year universities do. When you have that one-on-one connection, it's going to be really easy to be able to have that individual tailoring or that individual teaching. And if it's going to be a lot easier to have that individualism when you have a one-on-one with another person who has been through it, versus when you have the one teacher versus 26 to 35 students. So we're seeing how everybody learns a little bit differently, and we're seeing how there's always going to be a more efficient way, a better way to learn amongst all the students in the college system.
That was wonderful to hear, John. So I think we have some Q&As that we got to answer in the Q&A section. So I think we should go ahead and answer those. I currently can't see the questions because my internet cut out and I had to, switch to my phone. So if one of you guys could read the questions out and we can respond to them, that would be great.
So I see a question that says, it's from, and I might butcher the name, Azizi Pen. They ask, what specific things can professors do to show they want to help / mentor Black students specifically without showing them favoritism?
I'd like to answer that question. So what I think can be done is, make it seem as the student body is, or the students in your class, it's inclusive. Make it seem as if everybody involved is welcomed and is appreciated in the class. And another thing is I think you should be also make it so that a lot of people go through things at home, and that reflects their education for the most part. As I stated earlier, a lot of people don't have the most stable home life. They don't have the most stable survival life, food on the table, like I said earlier. Not everybody has that luxury. And I think if you were to make it to those students that are struggling in your class, no matter what their ethnicity is, if you're just able to make it so that they have the ability to be vulnerable and express what they're going through, and just be able to have that safe space in your class. And I feel like if you were to do that, it would get them more involved in the class and feel more welcomed, as I say. Just reach out and have a guiding hand if there's students that need any type of support.
I would like to also echo.
Anybody else have?
Yeah, let me echo what Yasin was just saying. We're all students, right? At the end of the day, we're all students. But everybody is going through their specific complexes when they go home. And a lot of Black students tend to deal with the same complexes, which tend to be financial insecurity, home violence, drugs. So the best way to do it is to don't have them reach out to you. Reach out to everybody and know their specific situation as a student. Now, it may seem fundamental to do that, but I've rarely seen it. Only a handful of teachers actually stop quarterly of the semester or in the middle of the semester and stop and talk to each student and ask what's going on in their personal life. I think that is absolutely essential.
Most definitely. If you're able to build that connection with the student that are struggling in the class, it'll get them more. They'll more so appreciate the class and gain more from it. They'll be able to learn better. Yeah. If you have that safe space for them.
I definitely agree.
Go ahead, Michael.
Saying basically the same thing. Yeah, I think creating that relationship, that rapport, that I can trust you as a professor, that there's no ill intentions. I don't want other students to feel like, I'm being favored, but that you are truly there for me. A simple message here and there, or like starting off the class with asking specific questions that can help everybody, that that, hey, I'm here for you. Reach out to me. I've had a teacher in the past that when she started class, which was really great, she asked everyone their pronouns. She asked everyone their nicknames that they wanted to be called by, how they operate and those things. And I think that will be really, really great to implement. Or even like a questionnaire at the beginning of the class or a survey or something to ask how they're doing, how they feel about the class. Do they feel they need more help and stuff like that? I think that would be really great to implement.
Definitely. We have a question from Claudia Navarro. What can institutions do different or better to welcome Black and African American students to continue with their education past high school? What support can we offer to assist? And if you guys don't mind, I'd love to take that one real quick. So that's definitely a really good question. That's definitely something that I see asked a lot, and that I've asked myself, is how can teachers help inspire the next generation? And I don't think as college professors, I don't think it's necessarily something that they can do the best, because they have to worry about their specific things. However, high school professors and college counselors, if they ever have the time, I know I always hear a lot about how our college counselors specifically, they're really busy weeks in the first 2 weeks of a semester and the last 2 weeks of a semester. And those in between, 12 weeks, they're not really doing much. And so I think that having the teachers and the counselors who have the time and the ability, who are able to reach out and go do networking and outreach programs in local high schools, and even beyond, that are able to go out and reach out and just let everybody know that college is an option. Because a lot of the things that I personally felt in high school, and even before high school and middle school, was that college was something that you needed, but it wasn't necessarily an option available to me. I know one of the things that the most intimidating thing for me was seeing that price of college was, on average, like even $32,000 a year. That to me was such a, and especially in high school and middle school, before we all have a job, that for me, seeing a number that big was absolutely mind blowing. I couldn't imagine how somebody could even fathom bringing together $32,000 for one school year, and you need 4 school years to get even your bachelor's. And then as well, one thing I had mentioned earlier was that the mentorship program that schools have between seniors and upper division students with the incoming freshmen and the transfer students, having that ability to have them reach out. And I know the numbers wouldn't necessarily match up between all the upper division students reaching out to all the high school students, but even like I said earlier, having counselors and even some of those students do workshops at these high schools. I know I personally went to a workshop that my mom got me to when I was in high school, and it was an HBCU workshop that was done out in San Bernardino, and I went to that, and that was kind of my first view of, oh, college is an option. College is something that I can do, because I was able to go to a workshop, because I went to this and met the counselors and met some of the students from these schools, and realized, oh, college is a feasible option. I think that'll definitely a lot.
Most definitely. I'd like to add on to that, in the perspective, or in the way that institutions could better help involve African American students and motivate African American male students and motivate them to work. Men in general don't tend to share their emotions and tend to express what's going on in the inside to everybody. There's a stigma around it that men that show their emotions or men that cry, they're automatically viewed as weak or as beta males. But I feel like everybody needs that opportunity to release what they have inside in order to focus on something else. So I feel if there would be an implementation of a, so to speak, like every week, if there was like a group of student and faculty members, probably more so upper class men or upper class students, facilitate like a breakout room or a discussion with small groups of African American male students or any minority students or any students in general that are really going through it and need that type of ability to have a safe space where they can release what they're going through and just be heard out and be able to be supported. Everybody needs that opportunity to break down and just release everything they have built up in them in order to move on, in order to be successful. So I feel if that was implemented in our current institutions, not necessarily just Riverside City College, but other institutions, where it just creates a safe place for students that are really going through it and really struggling to just break down and just release what they have going on and just have that supporting shoulder and that helping hand there to help them through that struggle and just get them on the right tracks. I think if that was implemented, it would most definitely increase the successfulness of our students on campus.
Definitely.
All right, guys, it looks like we have to wrap up. So I would like to end our discussion. We're on reimagining education, and thank you all for joining us by taking time out of your busy schedule to listen to 4 young Black men talk about our shared and individual experiences with the education system. We hope that with this discussion that you all walk away with a better understanding on how to move forward with helping future Black students succeed in the school setting and life. We all have different experiences with different outcomes, but we need from you, the faculty and higher ups, the guidance, the programs, and the assistance to make sure we have everything that we need and the tools to succeed. On behalf of John, Trent, Yassine, and all of us, thank you. Also, Mr. Wilkinson, thank you for this amazing setup, and hope you guys have a great afternoon.